My name is Christian Basel. Years ago, I had an idea. I got myself a TARDIS. Took it to new places, met a lot of new people, took some great pictures, and talked Doctor Who. From Krypton Radio and the creators of the Hanging With web show, this is the legend of the Traveling Tardis. Join me on my latest adventures and become part of the legend. And ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of The Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. Whether you're listening to us on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Krypton Radio, Spreaker, Stitcher, wherever you're listening to us in the Whoniverse and beyond, we want to thank you for joining us here. And I said special episode because we have a wonderful special guest who I've not seen in ages, and I love her to death. She's still my childhood companion crush, which I haven't told her yet, but I told her now, I guess, because she's heard this whole thing. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce you to the lovely and talented Miss Sophie Aldred. For those of you who grew up Doctor Who during my time, she was the companion to the Seventh Doctor, and still one of my favorite Doctors, Sylvester McCoy. And she played the lovely Dorothy McShane, or better as I'm going to know her, because I'm going to say this because I know she's going to get mad at me. I'm going to call her Dot. The whole episode. But if you read her book, you'll understand what I'm talking about there. I want to welcome Miss Sophie Aldred. Sophie, how are you doing? I've missed you so much, my love, my dear. Thank you for coming.
Bless you. Wow, what an intro. Gosh, that's really great. It's so nice.
I keep going if you want.
Great. Thank you for that, for the intro. Amazing.
Thank you. No, thank you for joining us today. I want to ask you, I get as much as I haven't, for people who are in the Whoniverse that I haven't seen in a long time, how are you doing? How is 2020 treating you right now? Welcome to the new decade.
Yeah, we're not that far into it, and I had an explosive start to the new year. I mean, I won't go into too much graphic.
Nitro 9 at the show here. Been warned.
A personally explosive start, as in New Year chimed, and I had to rush to the bathroom, and both me and my husband went down with the norovirus, and our poor old 16-year-old was having to deal with us. So New Year's night, my husband's lying on the bathroom floor groaning. But yeah, I mean, it could be really graphic. It won't be. And then my poor older son, who had driven a load of friends to a party right across the other side of London, he succumbed around the same time, rushed out of the club where he was, and proceeded to be sick 30 times in the night. So yeah, we had an explosive start to 2020. So things have definitely got better since then.
Do you have?
And that's the end of the show, folks. Good night, everybody.
Please tell me you have multiple restrooms or loos in your home. Because
luckily, it's great because the house we used to live in southeast London was one of these very tall Victorian period houses with tall ceilings and kind of beautiful mouldings and fireplaces, but only one bathroom. So that was a problem. We've since moved out to the countryside, to Hertfordshire, at northwest of London, and we've swapped. We're in a quite a sort of modernish house, and thank heaven we have 4 bathrooms. Hurrah!
Oh, good.
So that worked really well.
Oh, because when you said that, so my husband and I, when we first started dating, 20 years ago, we had our first little house had 1 bathroom, and we both were stricken with food poisoning at the same time. And it was a blessing that our systems had to have issues at separate times, so it never was an issue. But that's always the first thing I think of is how. I would love 4 bathrooms. Anyway, didn't think that this interview was going to go this way, huh, Christian?
Yeah, we're full of something today.
It's gone straight to the toilet.
Yeah, we couldn't do a better interview there. I was about to say, Brian, the whole time they're talking, the first thing, I don't know if anybody remember Bridesmaids and Melissa McCarthy sitting on the sink going, "It's coming out like lava." I'm like, oh God, now we're a graphic TV.
I can relate to that.
Yes. Well, poor thing. Are you feeling better now?
Oh,
Is 2020 getting a little bit better?
2020 is wonderful. I've already seen friends and done some work. And last night I went out with an old school friend to see this fantastic musical, which you know about in the States very well, called Come From Away. So it's really amazing. It's a musical.
I know.
9/11. And you wouldn't think that that was going to be an uplifting subject, but it's about the residents of Gander who took in all the flights when they were grounded. And it's just amazing.
Yeah.
If you haven't seen it, then if it's on in your neighborhood, go and see it or somewhere, because it's the most marvelous sort of piece of ensemble work as well. All the parts are great. And they use, they play multiple characters. They use the stage brilliantly. They're, one moment they're in a plane, the next moment they're in a kind of Salvation Army hall. It's just, it's absolutely brilliant.
If I'm not mistaken, I think I saw an ad for that. I think I've seen one. I mean, we have another musical, which I will not reveal because it's not doing too well out here. But yeah, I just saw one. I think I saw one ad, and it was just like, well, that's really an odd interest. Okay, fine. Maybe I'll watch it. But I got your word on it now. I got
with Newfoundland accents and everything.
So what are you doing now these days? What is Sophie Aldred doing now?
Okay, so Sophie Aldred is doing a lot of voice work.
Yes.
I do a lot of audiobooks. In fact, last week's audiobook was a treat. It was called Mummy, Fairy and Me. And it's the story of a little girl whose mother can turn herself into a fairy and do magic. Wouldn't that be cool? And
yes.
the adventures. And she's a kind of trainee fairy. She's a fairy in waiting. And it's a delightful series of books by an author called Sophie Kinsella. And very, very cute. So I was doing that last week. And I do a bit of coaching with students for drama school auditions are coming up. And I'm really enjoying working with, I love working with young people and teens. So yes, a lot of that. And I also do a lot of work with a company called Landmark Worldwide, which is a personal and professional growth training and development company. And again, I work a lot with teens and young people. And if you don't know about that, look it up because it's a great course. And and just really easing into the new year and getting ready for a big moment, which is coming in February.
Yes, it is, and we will get to more talk about that. But first, I want to, because I still give Nick Briggs some hard time because I can't keep up with your Big Finish audios anymore.
No,
and I think we're going to start talking about that because of your new book that we're going to be talking about. That's going to be coming out in February. But I was just like, next thing I know, and then I wanted to start because I don't know if you heard in the introduction, you heard the series 26 intro that you did. I want to talk more into it, but when they brought you into doing that, and I know that I was reading an article, you said that you got really emotional doing that scene.
I did, yeah, yes. I will tell you the full story because you know how I talk. I can go on and on.
I know, but we're hoping you do.
So yeah,
nobody wants to hear me.
Moment. What happened was it was kind of out of the blue. I received an email from Pete McTighe, who is he wrote the Kablam episode for Jodie's first series, and he's written an episode for this season, and he also is the showrunner on a show called Wentworth out in Australia, which is a prison drama. And I'd heard his name, and he emailed me out of the blue and said, I'm writing the trailer for the 26th Blu-ray release, and Ace is my favorite character, and I've attached a script, and I'd love to know what you think. Mm-hmm. So there I am. I sit there. I open the attachment, thinking, and I read it, and I just burst into tears. It was so moving, and I think what got me was thinking about the old days, thinking about Sylvester and our ongoing relationship, if you like, our friendship that has lasted and will last, you know. It's just and it reminded me of like, yeah, what I guess it was just this thought of like, we haven't really had that in our lives on screen for 30 years now, and what a missing that is, because although of course there's Big Finish and there's conventions and so on, nothing quite replaces the TV series, the camaraderie of work, the kind of, you know. So I was like a squidgy mess.
Pun intended. Yes. Speaking of squidget mess, we're on a commercial break. When we return, we're going to talk more about that squidgy mess, because I have really a hard time doing a good segue. When we return with the lovely Sophie Aldred, please continue to listen and become part of the legend.
It's Germany, 1938. Charlotte is a 15-year-old girl living in the Jewish quarter. George lives in the city proper, and enamored by Charlotte's charm and grace when she wanders into his cobbler shop, George decides right then and there that he is going to marry her. Follow along as this unlikely couple struggles to stay one step ahead of the Gestapo and their dramatic escape from Nazi Germany. Good Things Always Happen in Springtime, from author Joanne Fisher, on Amazon.com today.
Alien invaders enslave Earth,
Unleashing hunters into the ruin wastes.
One young survivor struggles to elude their monsters, clinging to hope.
When he's stolen off the planet by a sarcastic starship AI, they pit their uneasy alliance against a treacherous galaxy.
Explore a whole new verse of barbarism and betrayal.
Wonder and adventure.
In the Scion series
by Michael J. Allen.
Beginning with Book 1, Scion Conquered Earth.
Available in print, ebook, and audio on Amazon.com.
And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening to us at the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS radio show. Thank you for listening us onto our favorite social platforms, Krypton Radio, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Spreaker, Stitcher, all of those guys out there. Podbean, if you're listening to us, thank you so much. And thank you for taking your time with us. And thank you, Sophie, for joining us here at the Legend of the Traveling TARDIS. And I actually have a great story to tell, because I finally got to meet not only Sylvester in the States, I got to actually hang out with him. And I was on a trip I was actually one of his liaisons at the Carnival Cruise Line, and he went to go to Kennedy Space Center, which I thought was the coolest. I actually have him in a picture in front of the Space Shuttle Atlantis holding the TARDIS up, my TARDIS up. And I still to this day just oodle over it. It is one of the most wonderful things. I've got a time traveler, a space machine, and my machine together in the same picture. Wow. And it is the Space Shuttle Atlantis just right behind him. I'm just like, oh, I could cry. But the reason why I bring this up is because I just love Sylvester. He was walking around one day, and we went to one of the restaurants over at the Kennedy Space Center. And lo and behold, there were two Whovians sitting at a table. They kept referring and pointing to Sylvester every time he would walk by, and I was walking with him. And then one of the girls who was sitting at the table stopped me and whispered in my ear and goes, "Is that who I think it is?" And I whispered back to her, I said, "Yes, it's Jodie Whittaker." It's like,
Lord. No.
And lo and behold, I didn't even know these two girls, but they run I guess I'll give them a little plug, a Facebook page called Crew to Who in Ohio, or one of the northern states up there. They were visiting down here, and they just happened to see Sylvester at NASA. I'm just like, they didn't know what to do or react, but as soon as they found out, they ran over to him, got his picture. So I said, I love it. I love it there. So I just, have you had moments like that where there were just really just incredible moments? Have you ever had a really big fan moment that just really just, that made you just emotional, just like when you first did the commercial for Series 26? Was there a fan moment that just changed you?
I often find that I get very emotional at conventions when I'm doing signings, and people's stories. People come to me and they open their hearts, and they do to all of us, I think, because we share this extraordinary relationship that's been going on for 30 years, or even if it's like a year, you know, if a child has kind of found Jodie Whittaker and then realized that there's this whole backlog of programs that they can watch, you know, and they come to Sylvester, and Yeah, so people have told me the most extraordinary things about their lives, and I guess to be the guardian of people's stories and to be trusted in that way, I do find incredibly moving, and I treasure those moments that people say what a difference Ace has made to them. You know, they tell me some story about being bullied at school or not fitting in or something like that, and then finding Ace and thinking, and people often say to me that to get them through hard times, they would think, what would Ace do? What would Ace do? You know, what would she be doing? And that kind of has got them through. And that to me is just like the biggest accolade that I could ever wish for, I think. To have made a difference in somebody's life through a character that I've played it's an honor, really.
And so something I'm thinking about is like, what would Ace do? And now I see a bunch of school kids walking around with baseball bats, and the piece is kept because nobody's going to touch each other. Yeah, we're done here. There.
I have to point out that Ace only used her bat on alien beings. And then I often think maybe kids might say, yeah, but my teacher's an alien being.
We're not promoting the use of baseball bats in schools. Please stop right there. Stop right there, please.
Only on Daleks.
When you're teaching theater and all the other students, or you're teaching your dramatics to the students, whether it be it for film, theater, or however they want, you know, to go out there on the world, have you encountered anybody who, you know, they're not maybe familiar with your work, and then after going through the entire curriculum with you, you know, growing as an actor, then going back and going, I watched you in Doctor Who, or I've watched, and then kind of having almost this kind of a fan side to them suddenly, or has that happened? Or
it's funny. I mean, there's it's funny because my boys went to a Waldorf school, a Steiner school we call them over here, and children at Steiner schools and parents are encouraged not to let their children watch TV from a very early age. And actually going to the parent and child groups there was a very different experience for me, because I used to take the boys along, and you know, nobody kind of had seen anything I'd done, whereas the more normal groups, where normal as though there's something abnormal about, no, I don't mean that, but you know,
right.
You know, people would be a little bit, just react differently to me. So it was actually, that was quite nice to be more anonymous. Not that I'm saying that people recognize me all the time and all that, but I'm very grateful for that anonymity in those days, you know, when I'm struggling through early parenthood and making a bit of a mess, and you know, and all that, like we all do. Yeah, I think what young people and teens are amazing. You know, they might be starstruck for a minute or two or whatever, and then it's just like, no, we'll get on with the job. This is it. And I think what all I want to do is to kind of sort of empower them through half the time I don't really know what I'm doing, but I'm using my experience and what I can see that may be missing in their performance, that I can kind of coach them in from my experience of having worked. I mean, we're all like that, aren't we? Whatever job we do, we know what we're doing at any job, and you know, the passing on that knowledge is really you know, that's a great gift to have.
Also, if I remember right, you've worked as a teacher, right?
Yeah, I have. I've worked as a teacher in the Steiner schools, and I've often called in to direct plays or to teach a bit of drama, and to do some singing and things like that. And I've always loved children. I've always loved being around children. I'm the oldest of my cousins, and my brother is younger than me. So I was the one who at Christmas would always arrange games, or my brother's birthday is on Halloween. And so I would always create these elaborate Halloween parties. And unlike you, we've now embraced trick or treat and Halloween over here, but in those days, in the 70s, people had really no idea of Halloween, and except when they came to my parties and would have to put their hands in jelly and find eyeballs and sort of wind themselves with string cobwebs and things. And often I was far more keen on these games than my brother and his friends, but I would make them play them.
Of course.
So were you peeling the grapes so that they could become eyeballs?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely, all that.
And when did it? Well, first of all, let me show you this. I finally found the picture, and there's Sylvester in front of Atlantis.
Isn't that great?
And he's holding my TARDIS.
Oh, look at TARDIS.
So you got
just awesome. He's
a wonderful man.
So lucky to have him as a friend.
And I have a question.
Yeah.
And this is a side note because we're speaking of Halloween, because I'm actually doing a kind of a timeline. When did it finally hit the UK of Halloween? Because when I first interviewed you, and I had a few interviews on another show, the Halloween had not become the pinnacle it is now.
No.
And especially in the States, it's almost a religious thing. It's almost exceeded Christmas as the new holiday and the new kid on the block. So is it really as big as it is here as it is there, or is it kind of...
It's not quite as big. It's different. It's like
okay.
Because I believe in America you kind of dress up as all kinds of things. I remember an American friend of mine. We used to have a Halloween party when the children were small, because I had to get my thrills out of peeling grapes and having people's hands in. And we did this thing called flour pie, where you pack flour into a bowl, turn it upside down on a big sheet of newspaper or waterproof. Then you put sweet on the top, and then people have to take slices, and then the person who lets the sweet fall into the flour pie has to put their hands behind their back and basically get the sweet out. So they end up with a face full of flour. Great fun, amazing fun. Takes a bit of tidying up afterwards, but worth it. Anyway, so we were doing all that, but in over here we tend to dress up. It's much more of the All Hallows Eve type spooky thing.
Right.
So you'll see, lots of pumpkins and carvings and things like you have as well. But there's mostly people are dressed up as ghosts and ghouls and witches, and the idea is that it's very spooky. Like there was a guy down our road who he used to open the door and have this spooky music and then it was great because he'd scare the kids rigid. He would peep over the top of the door with this horrible mask on, so it looked as though he was about 8 foot tall. So it was all very spooky, and people spray their houses with cobwebs and do all that. And my friend turns up in her Sarah Palin costume, and we're all going, what are you dressed up like Sarah Palin for on Halloween? And she's like, yeah, but this is how it's done. This is what we do.
Yeah, we're a bit more all over the place, where it could be funny, or it can be satire, or it could be spooky, or if your children in your trick-or-treating, was it how many years ago, you have 18 Elsas from Frozen coming at your door. It's like, how many Disney princesses can you find?
I would love to have seen her go to a cliff somewhere and go, I can see Alaska from here, or something.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
no, the phrase is, I can see Russia from my house.
Russia from my house. Yeah. There we go.
Oh, look
Remember that?
There's your TARDIS.
There's my TARDIS.
Oh, now I know exactly where that was.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
That was Time Lord Fest in Tampa, wasn't it?
Wow, well spotted.
Remember that?
Was it the flowers that did it?
I think it was.
Yes. And one other thing, and then we're going to do a commercial break, and I promise you we are going to talk about that book, but here's one more picture. And normally I usually tell folks, if you remember the Capaldi eyes that I created there, and there's Sophie there. And I wanted to give Sophie a gift when I got here. And usually it's the actors who are giving out their action figures or stuff like that to fans. signed and given to them. So I said, I'm going to do the reverse. I'm going to sign this action figure and give it to Sophie in reverse. So do you sell that action figure? It's okay if you don't. If you gave it to the kids to play with.
I've got a couple of shelves in our house which have a lot of things that fans give me because it's lovely. It's really kind of people. So thank you. And also sometimes we don't get these things. So it's really nice to be given them because we often don't get them. So
gotta remember that when I get the new action figure of Sophie. When we come back, I promise you, Sophie wrote a book and we're going to talk about it. We're going to be talking about it when we return to the Legend of the Traveling Tardis. Please stay tuned and continue to become part of the legend.
Now on Amazon.com, iCoin from author Jeremy Mosby. It's an alternate reality, and the leader of the planet iCoin is none other than Benjamin Franklin. When corrupt officials threaten not only iCoin but the Earth as well, an unlikely chosen one, Jeremy, must face dark foes to save the Earth and iCoin alike. Author Jeremy Mosby takes readers on a superhero's adventure through this compelling and imaginative alternate universe. Get iCoin on Amazon.com today.
Jackie Sonnenberg's My Soul to Keep is a ghost story rooted in the realities of actual cults. When 13-year-old Sky Monroe arrives at her new boarding school, all she can think about is death and connecting with the afterlife. Soon she discovers her school's spirituality group, the Guardians of Light, and they have a secret. They can speak with the dead, and the organization is a cult. But this isn't Sky's only problem. The campus house where Sky resides is haunted, and even the ghosts have an agenda. They intend on getting the souls they want. Filled with mystery and intrigue plucked straight from the headlines, author Jackie Sonnenberg's research and attention to detail give this ghost story an even more eerie atmosphere. Find My Soul to Keep on Amazon.com today.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to our very special episode with our very special guest, Sophie Aldred. You remember her as the companion to the Seventh Doctor in the series Doctor Who. And miss Sophie and Ace so much there. But we got to let you know that Sophie wrote a book. We haven't done that. We haven't talked about it as of yet. But Sophie wrote a book for BBC Books called At Childhood End. Now, I just, this is not the first book you've written, but it's the first novelization you've written. Is that correct?
It is correct. Yes, I wrote a book with Mike Tucker, who was worked on visual effects many years ago now, called Ace, the inside story of the end of an era, because we had he and I used to take loads of photographs of anything and everything that was going on location. And then afterwards we thought, hang on a minute, the fans might like to see these. So we took it to Virgin Books and they really loved the idea. So it's that was more of a kind of a scrapbook and how the series was made, which I'm so glad that we wrote, because I now use it as a reference when I'm doing interviews and things, and people say, how did you do it? And I don't know, can't remember. I'll look in the book, and there it is. Because, of course, you always think you're going to remember everything forever, and you don't. So, yeah.
Well, the fans see you in one light, and you see yourself in another light, meaning that I remember there was an interview with John Pertwee. Somebody asked him, what did you think when you first saw the Daleks? And he goes, what time's lunch? He goes, you only see one side of the TV. You don't, and that's your moment, that's your story, but you don't see the other side where these people are working hard, they're doing stuff. And yeah, it's just it's like when people ask me when I was working on previous shows and stuff, it's like episode 32, you said da 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 da, and what did you mean by that? And I said, well, I was tired. I probably had the flu at that time, and I don't remember, and I think I was just getting by or something like that. We're
recording it all out of order as well, because of course you're doing all the scenes in the TARDIS first, and then you change and you do all the scenes in this certain place, and then it's funny seeing the whole story together, because I think, oh wow, that seems to make sense now, or sometimes not.
So what inspired you to write this book, and what inspired you to bring it up at this point in time?
Well, actually, I was asked. Basically, it was I had again, these things kind of happened almost concurrently. It was interesting. The Blu-ray trailer happened first, and then about the same time, I had, was it an email or a call from a guy called Steve Cole, who I've known again for years, BBC Books, and he said Tom Baker did this book a year, 2 years ago now.
Yes.
And
Scratchman.
Scratchman, and it was an idea that he'd had, and he'd always wanted to do it. And they thought, great, let's do it. And it had been very successful for them. And I was next. And how did I feel about, doing a novel? And it was like, yeah, great. So
let me think about this.
Mike Tucker and Steve Cole and I, we got together in a delightful chocolate shop in a village, because we live not too far from each other. So we all converged on this chocolate shop, and we just came up with lots of ideas, did loads of brainstorming. I just filmed the trailer, so I said, right, I want this to be the same Dorothy. This is Dorothy now. She's got this penthouse office. She's working for a charitable earth. I really wanted to tie the whole canon together, everything that we've known since the series finished, including references to Big Finish and why Ace has had so many kind of incarnations, if you like. Why she was different in the novelizations, why she was different in different eras of Big Finish. So kind of almost like explaining why there's so much of her timeline that's kind of fractured. And we talked and fleshed out some ideas, and then we all kind of, lots of emails back and forth, and lots of, and that's how we did it. So, I mean, it's my name on the cover for sure. I'm just holding it now, but it's also like you'll see inside, it's with Steve Cole and Mike Tucker.
Right.
And it's also like I acknowledge at the end, my first acknowledgement is to them. I couldn't possibly have done it without them. And the thing is that Mike, for example, knows Ace as well as I do, and he's written for Ace before. He's written for Ace and the Seventh Doctor. Steve, again, he's very. Also, they were very, very helpful with the references to, we are putting a bit of old references in there, monsters' names and things like that. And I couldn't possibly have done that without them.
I almost kind of see it as like, in my mind, that you made this elaborate quilt. So you started doing all the different pieces, but these are the two gentlemen that helped combine it and fill in those little pieces to kind of get it connecting, where I could see where your name is on the cover of the book, and then you did this amazing quilt, but they were the ones that kind of helped stitch and fill. So it's just this brilliant novelization.
Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. Thank you. And yeah. And yes, it is exactly that, like these ideas, these kind of characters, the bringing all Perivale back, and then different monsters and references to this and that, and then obviously the 13th Doctor, and the kind of because this is a 13th Doctor book, and yet
spoilers.
Well, you start off knowing what year it's 2020, so you kind of know.
Well, not to mention you've got the silhouette of Jodie right there on the cover.
Well, I mean, and it's really like I was very, very excited and delighted to do the scene where they meet. That for me, I think, is one of the most important scenes in the book. It's like, what would Ace say? What would she feel? What would she, you know? So that was a real joy to really get to grips with that. And we didn't get it right at first, and then, you know, it was like, yeah, okay. I was, and eventually, you know, I was really happy with it.
But I love.
What? As we were all trying to not see each other.
Well, let me just put this out there. I'm going to say this. Ace started the MCU before the MCU was popular, so she already had a multi. Yeah. Ace was already, Dorothy McShane had already got the multi-universe down before it became popular. So I'm just letting you know out there that was the case there.
Which literally was.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
Which literally was, I was going to bring up, is like before when we had gotten copies of the book to read over. And I remember when we first heard that we were going to be, you know, going to do this amazing interview with Sophie and going, okay, we're going to read, there's a book. And then I'm like, well, which Ace is this? What do you mean, which Ace? Which Ace? Read the book. Oh, okay, fine. Oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So for people listening to the podcast, you're gonna want to see this or read this on February 6th when it drops.
It's tricky, isn't it, not to give too much away? But yeah, I'm glad that worked. Good.
Well, I got to attest to this. And Dave, you said something. Let me get you back in there.
Well, one, that blew my mind when I got to that part. But one of the things I really loved was not even your interaction with the doctor. It was interesting seeing some of the interactions when the doctor wasn't there, and how you and Yaz kind of interacted a lot, and a lot of the how you address each other and how you guys discuss the doctor together. There's some interesting stuff in there as far as.
Thank you. Yeah. I've always loved this dynamic between old companions, new companions. You know, how does that work? You know, who's jealous of who? Who's sizing up who? There's always that moment, isn't there? And we also had to address, of course, the whole question of explosions. Yeah, ding. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Oh goodness.
That is correct. Thank you. You win a prize.
Yeah, we had to address the whole issue of explosives, because, of course, 30 years ago, that was fine to have Nitro 9. And now it wouldn't be so fine, you know? So we had to address that as well. And I hope we addressed it sufficiently.
Well, one of the things I love about, especially in this book, is, and then as Dave mentioning the scene where 13 and well, at that time, I guess we can say Dorothy, and you read the book, you'll see why, when they finally get together. And I loved it because it would be something that I would see on TV with those two getting together, because there is that elephant in the room that they don't want to talk about, but they have to talk about if they're going to communicate to each other, sitting there driving. And it's just like, you guys gonna do something? You know, they're kind of having that talk, but I could see that over there. And I'm just gonna say something, because I remember them a while back, when we were talking a while back, they were talking about bringing Ace to the Sarah Jane Adventures, and unfortunately Liz passed away at the time. And somebody had mentioned that at one point Class was going to bring you in to do an adventure, and then Class got canceled. BBC, there's a show called Doctor Who. You can bring Ace back at any time to do an episode.
Testify.
Like,
not an episode.
Exactly.
An entire miniseries of just this book.
Whatever Sophie wants, Sophie gets. Give it to her. She can have any. I'm just like, yeah, there were so many things that I think one of the things that I'm not I've been a critic about the last and current season is just when they decided to kind of go off, not attributing anything to the past, and I think it's series 11 or series 12, series 11, and they were like, we're not going to have classic monsters. I think that was the biggest mistake. I said, this is what people love because of that classic moments. I would love to see how Ace is doing. I would love to see how Tegan's doing. In fact, we mentioned a joke where there would be a moment where Tegan has kids and one of the kids wants to run off in the TARDIS. How would that react to Tegan going off over there? Or Ace coming back and seeing the Doctor in 13's body. And I was watching that when I was reading that in the book, and how Ace was trying to cope with it, because she knew a guy who was short with a funky hat with a question mark umbrella, and I actually have the sweater. And trying to get past that and say this is your new doctor, and it's not the same one that you grew up with. It's a totally different doctor, but it's still the same alien. It's still the same person with all the same moral compass that's in there. Just has a really weird haircut. So it's like,
it sort of blows your mind, doesn't it, when you think about it? It's like suddenly your best friend is like totally
exactly
body that's different, but actually the memories and the brain and the relationship is still there.
Yeah.
So yeah, we really wanted, to address that and how that was going to work. Yeah, that was the real kind of driver for the book as well.
So are you getting your palates and your appetites wet for a really good book that's going to be coming out February 6th? Well, folks, keep listening. We're going to have our final segment with the lovely Sophie Aldred when we return. And please continue to stay logged on, tuned in, and continue to become part of the legend.
Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish.
Santa, if there's one thing I want for Christmas more than anything, it's someone to spend Christmas with. Someone who really wants me to be there.
Head to the mountains of East Tennessee with romance author Jenna Hart for a Christmas writer's workshop. Since her mother passed after a long illness, Jenna has had one wish. She doesn't want to spend Christmas alone. Meeting Niccolo Maldini, cover model and actor, could make more than Jenna's Christmas wish come true. Unless Ember, Niccolo's ex-girlfriend, does something crazy to stop them from being together. It's a mountain Christmas romance you won't want to miss in Deborah Parmley's Jenna's Christmas Wish. Now on Amazon.com.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the final segment of the Legend Traveling Tardis for this episode radio show. My name is Christian Basel. I am here with Miss Melanie Dean. I am here with the rat hole himself, Mr. Dave Chapman, and I am here with Dr. Freedom himself as well. Herself. Yes. Brian Burress. Check him out on YouTube. And, of course, the lovely and talented Miss Sophie Aldred. Sophie, I don't want the show to end, so I'm just going to sit here for 13 minutes. We'll go to a commercial break, and we'll just... I'm just going to keep you on here all day long there. So, Sophie, what was the biggest challenge about writing this book when you were putting everything together? What was the hardest part about putting together? And I'm also going to add one more question. Let's get my question scarf for you. This question, nobody's seen. If you can't see it on the YouTube, I'm wearing Sylvester's question mark trademark sweater. And Dave's got his question mark umbrella, so we're all happy here. We're going to assemble our own Sylvester McCoy in just a moment here when we're all done. Sophie, what was the most challenging thing, and what makes you proud of this particular book?
I think probably the most challenging thing was the time frame, because I think it was like we were having this meeting in June, I think, this year. And it was delivery was October, so that's not much time to kind of write
wow between three people.
Yeah,
for you to have your first iteration and then being able to have like doctored or stitched together. Wow.
And I think it's a real kind of testament to the kind of the deep-rooted knowledge of the character and the because Ace kind of writes herself in a way, but yeah, that was definitely the most challenging thing. And
I honestly thought, reading wise, you would have never guessed that this was such a quickly turnaround page. Great. I mean, you could see that this was definitely a labor of love, and your writing style had such a way. The thing that really kind of sparked to me is that it wasn't like it was an emotional type of writing. It was more of when you're describing something, you always kind of made it tangible, where it wasn't like, even like at the very beginning, like in the dream, you're running. It wasn't the fact that you're running on rocks. It's the fact that it was be running on rocks that's painful, or something looked cold. Something you always tied in some type of physical sensation, and to me that kind of helped make it become even more immersive and such a page turner. never would have guessed it took you that short time to go, boom, check this brilliance out.
Well, I think the thing about it is that Ace is such a visceral character anyway. You know, Ace is like, she wants to touch everything. She wants to explore. And so that kind of, it almost like writes itself, you know, and it's, I don't know, it's very visual, isn't it? You know, I think it helps. I think if we'd been going from not knowing these characters at all, but you know, you know really, you know Ace so well, you know the Doctor, you know Yaz, you know, so those are kind of the easiest bits, if you like.
But you were able to effortlessly get what a squidget would be in my mind. I was able to, I mean, think about that, trying to explain to somebody, and everyone's kind of joking because everyone has the second knowing, understanding what squidget is. And again, when you read the book, you'll know. If you think of a concept, if I had to right now explain to my mother what a squidget is, it would not happen. It wouldn't, but you were able to do it within a paragraph.
Good.
It's a hashtag now. It's like Baby Yoda. I need a Baby Yoda, and I need my own squidget, and I am complete in my life. I don't need anything else in my life. I'm good here. I need a squidget. I see what it can do, and I need 5 of them. Don't ask. I need 5 of them right now.
I also need a hypergreen. That is what I need. I need a
hypergreen. Yes.
I need a hypergreen, though, especially with the pad that it charges it. I was like, oh, this is amazing. Sorry.
Yes, and I'm looking forward to the motorbike as well, really, when Ace gets around to fixing it.
And not only that, because you have, I couldn't get over this. I just laughed. Dorothy's toy box. That was just how it was explained. And I kept referring to a certain DC facility, and I was like, I wonder if this will ever get a mention. And surely enough, it got a couple mentions in there. I was just like, yes, this is her toy box.
Yeah.
This is she would do. But one of the things, and I gotta agree with Melanie on the testament of things that I could probably build my own squidget by the description of what you told me. I could actually model it and make it and make my own thing. That's how well versed written this is. I'm just curious how many cups of coffee were sacrificed in the making of this novel. But
I don't drink coffee, so there we go.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
I guess the boys did that.
Yeah.
While you're sipping on your tea, looking out the window.
Yeah.
One of the things I think is a testament to the character. I do see this being the direction she would have taken in life.
Well,
I mean, there's so many multiverses that she would have ended up, but in my mind, when her future came in, and if somebody asked me what would happen to Dorothy McShane, this is the direction I would have picked.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think Russell T. Davies was the guy who set that up.
Right.
Without that mention in the Sarah Jane Adventures, this wouldn't have happened. I mean, my preference used to be for her being going to Gallifrey and being trained as a Time Lord, and putting the wind up the Time Lords. It's sort of I think the seventh Doctor kind of like planting the ace bomb on Gallifrey, if you like. But actually, when Russell wrote that in the Sarah Jane Adventures, at first I thought, what? Working for a charity? What? And then actually, yeah, Ace, because she's quite a kind of she's quite a moral character, if you look. You know, she always wants to do right. Right in Remembrance of the Daleks, you know, we didn't we, says Ace at the end. You know, she wants to do good. She wants to do right by everything, everybody. And, you know, she has her knocks and things. So a charitable Earth makes total sense. In fact, we were going to call the book A Charitable Earth. And then with discussions with Penguin, it was like, it was a bit like, well, unless you're a real fan, you don't really understand what that is. And actually, so we threw around more names and eventually came up with At Childhood's End. But yes, A Charitable Earth was the original name we'd chosen for the book. And I'm really pleased that little line that happened with the Sarah Jane Adventures, you know, has weaved its way through into the future, you know.
But I think this is a testament to Ace's character in the future, because not only do I believe this Ace, I mean, not to mention all the other Aces, but I do believe in the. I don't want to do too many spoilers, but I just want to mention this. She's addressing herself as Dorothy,
Yes.
which means that, and this is my thought process on this, and tell me if I'm wrong. Even though she dropped the name, A Charitable Earth, there's still something inside her that just won't let go. Even though she suppresses it, there's no way she's going to get rid of it. In fact, I bet you right now, if Ace were on a street corner and there was a burning building and there were a bunch of these firefighters standing around trying to figure out how to get in there, she'll run in.
Oh,
She
yeah.
won't even ask. If
Absolutely.
she hears a crying baby, she's in there. She doesn't even care if the building's going to collapse on her, and she'll come out burnt, bruised, with blisters, hair probably caught on fire, but she'll have the baby walking out, and she goes, "Hey guys, I couldn't wait for you." That's what I see this, I guess for a better term, incarnation of Ace in the story. That is the, I guess for a better term, I don't want to give too much out, the Ace that we see here. And
I think this Ace, you see that is impulsive when she needs to be, but
yes,
strategic when she needs to be. I think that this is an Ace that you can see that she's got those balanced.
Yes.
in other words, she
She's-
hasn't changed, she's evolved.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think also it was interesting. I didn't really notice it in a way until I did the audiobook. But there's this kind of melancholy about her now. You know, there's a kind of sadness there as well. And you know, she is a bit of a loner, and that's an interesting avenue to explore really with Ace. You know, what does traveling with the Doctor do to you long term? You know, so,
That's one of the things I'm glad you addressed, because even there were stories, and I know Big Finish touched upon it, but it was always hinted at that when the Ace and the Seventh Doctor parted ways, it wasn't on very good terms.
mm,
And that's why I'm really glad you addressed that here in the book. You know, when she meets 13, she's still thinking of that departure, and they have to kind of get past it. I
Yeah.
loved that when it was addressed.
good. Oh, great. Yes, that kind of, yeah, because it wasn't really complete, and we never really explained that in Big Finish. So yeah, we had, you know, it's a chance to address all these things. It's great.
And she had a doctor moment too. And again, I'm trying to be spoiler free about this, but when you explained how she came into money,
Yes.
and then further explained why she came into money, that's the moment that I thought I wouldn't say it's over between the two of them, but they've run their course. She made a decision, and she knew right away that this is the end, and they're breaking up on bad terms. But also, I think because of, I'm going to say this flat out. I'm trying to be unspoiler free, but I think the Doctor was the only man in her life.
Mm.
And nothing can come even close to that little guy with the hat and the funny scarf and the umbrella. There's just nobody that's going to come that close. So I keep on thinking that maybe she compares when she's with other people. That's the comparison she had, because this is the man who's been the father figure, the best friend, the big brother, and everything to her. And to have another person to be that vessel, to be a companion, there is no comparison. There is nothing that relates to her. And I think that's why she is how she evolved in life, because I didn't see her as the marrying kind. I really didn't.
Yeah. And
She is a loner.
Absolutely right. I think that's a really, really good point. And I think it's because in the TV version, she's always falling in love with the wrong guy, isn't she?
Right, exactly.
In the moment, she's got this passion for, you know, like Mike in Remembrance of the Daleks and,
Right.
and Captain Sorin, and oh my goodness, they all turn out to be wrong uns, don't they? So the Doctor was the kind of the one constant in her life, and then, you know, he started betraying her as well, and then so there are battle scars there for sure.
Exactly. And that analogy that I used earlier about the fire, the fire. She runs right in the building, doesn't even think about, no consequences. In the background, Ace, you don't want to do that. Runs in, gets burnt, gets the job done, but then realizes, oh, I got burnt.
Yeah.
And the one man who's always been there for her when nobody else will be there.
Yes.
Is him. Will always be him.
Yeah. Yes.
And this is we're actually at the end. I really don't like these during our interviews. This is we're coming to the end of our show. Sophie, did you have anything that you want to let people know? Like you're coming to Florida, Orlando in February. That I'm making this up because I want you to come here.
Yes, invite me. Well, yeah, of course, order the book and get the Blu-ray and and let's all maybe if we all wish hard enough, we can have a spin-off Ace series. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Gotcha.
I'd love to do something with Ace, for her to be in a that really makes a difference for, because can you imagine Ace tackling climate change, for example?
Mm-hmm.
Greta Thunberg would be her assistant, I think.
Yes.
She'd have a companion like Greta Thunberg.
I also have one more question. I totally almost forgot about this. Whose idea was the ending for Doctor Who Velocity?
That's a good question.
Still mad. One of the many multi-universes, and that one I have to accept that's a multiverse.
Definitely. Multi-verse.
Now, I know the book comes out February 6th, both on hardcover and you can also get your digital downloads from penguin.co.uk. The audiobook, is that coming out the same time or is that a little bit later?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Look around for it. And this is tantalizing because the front cover is like that, but I'm going to give you a really quick flash. I'm not really meant to, but I will of the back cover. So,
da, da, da.
Yeah.
Well, Sophie,
it's worth getting the book because it's I love this. I'm so pleased with the people at BBC Books, Penguin Random House. They've done me proud.
Are you doing any book signings or any other type of touring for the book?
Yes.
No?
I'm doing in Britain. I'm doing Forbidden Planet in London and I'm doing Fab Cafe in Manchester on the 9th, and then there'll be lots of others. And I'm really hoping that somebody's going to invite me to America to do some. That would be great.
I invited you, but I just can't afford it.
Yeah.
Well, we could at least put some little bugs in people's ears.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, folks, we're out of time, but thank you so much, Sophie Aldred, for coming on to the show. I miss you dearly, and I can't wait to see you back in the States, or if by some luck I come in the UK and see you over there. And please tell Claire I'm still waiting for Strangeness in Space, the sequel.
I will. Yes, thank you. Thanks for supporting that too.
It was beautiful there. So everyone, thank you so much, Sophie, for coming. And please, always, when you want to come back, let us know. We'll bring you.